Okay, here we are on page 2. We're going to be using symmetry to find the trig value of each of these. For these, since we're using the symmetry, we need to know that the negative angle formulas and the reference angle stuff. So this is the stuff like cosine of a negative angle is equal to the cosine of the positive angle. We can just drop the negative. Sine of a negative angle is equal to negative sine of the angle. We can move the negative to the outside. Tangent of a negative angle is equal to negative tangent. Pretty much all those, plus the reference angles. So pi minus theta, pi plus theta, and 2 pi minus theta. So all of those angles as well. So let's start by looking at the first one, sine of negative pi over 4. Well, that's going to be exactly the same. That's going to equal negative sine of pi over 4. Sine of pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2. So that's going to be a negative root 2 over 2. And that's our final answer. No more. Nothing left to simplify there. Cosine of negative pi over 6. So that with that negative angle identity, we can just drop the negative. So that's going to be equal to cosine of pi over 6. And cosine of pi over 6 is right here, square root of 3 over 2. Tangent is an odd function just like sine, so we can just move the negative out. So tangent of pi over 3 is going to be equal to negative tangent of pi over 3. Looking at our unit circle, pi over 3 is right here. It's the steeper angle. Sine, square root of 3 over 2, divided by 1/2. The 2's would cancel out, leaving just the square root of 3. So it is equal to negative square root of 3 over 2. Oh, not over 2. Negative square root of 3. Tangent again. So we can just pull the negative out. 5 pi over 3. And tangent of 5 pi over 3. 5 pi over 3 is right here. 5 pi over 3. So 5 pi over 3, that is a negative root 3. So tangent, so just look at this part, just this section right here. Tangent is negative root 3. And then we bring down the negative that we didn't use. And then those negatives cancel out, leaving just root 3. So that negative gets pulled out and then dropped down, while tangent of 5 over 3 gets turned into that right there. So that negative came from the function. This negative was given to us. Negative sine of negative pi over 3. So with sine, the negatives come out, giving us you don't have to write negative negative, but I'm going to, a negative negative sine of pi over 3. These two negatives cancel each other out, leaving just sine of pi over 3, which is the square root of 3 over 2. And do the same thing again for negative tangent of negative pi over 4. Negative comes out, negative, negative, tangent of pi over 4. Two negatives make a positive, and tangent of pi over 4 is sine over cosine. They are exactly the same, so it's going to be 1 when you divide them. This next section here is about reference angles. So we have cosine, and we're given sine of some angle. Doesn't much matter what the angle is, but that's pretty much our theta right now is equal to pi over 8. Pi over 8. It's not a special angle, so you don't. It's not going to be on the unit circle, but you shouldn't need a calculator for it because it's already given you the calculator, what the calculator would spit out for you. So this is cosine, so we know we're going to be using the cosine value that's given to us, a positive or negative version of that. And so 2 pi of pi over 8. So cosine of 2 pi minus our theta. So this is essentially, if theta is in quadrant 1, this is quadrant 4, because we're doing 2 pi minus it. And so it's going to stay the same. This is a horizontal flip, not a horizontal flip, it flipped over a horizontal line, so it's a vertical flip. And so it's going to stay exactly the same. So this should be 0.9239, because cosine of 2 pi minus pi over 8 is equal to cosine of pi over 8. The value doesn't change. Sine is pi plus pi over 8. Pi over 8 is quadrant 1, so we're at pi plus pi over 8, so it's going to go down here into quadrant 3. And switching from quadrant 1 to quadrant 3 does change the sign. So we know that sine of pi plus theta is equal to negative sine theta. So this is pretty much this thing right here where theta is pi over 8. So because we have sine, we're going to be using the sine number that's given to us. This time we're going to be using the negative version of it. So we need negative 0.3827. Cosine tells us we're going to be using this number right here. It's either going to be positive or negative. Cosine of negative pi over 8, well, that's just a negative angle identity. We can just drop that negative with cosine. So this is going to be equal to cosine of pi over 8, which tells us is equal exactly to 0.9239. This is another cosine. Cosine of 9 pi over 8. Well, so 8 pi over 8 is pi, and this is slightly more than that. So we can rewrite this as cosine of pi plus pi over 8. Cosine of pi. So that moves it into quadrant 3. It takes pi over 8, which is, right here-ish, and adds pi, that's a 180 degrees, right here. So we're in quadrant 3. So quadrant 3 cosine is negative. So this should be equal a negative cosine of pi over 8. Which gives us negative 0.9239. Next one's sine. When we have a negative, we need to pull the negative to the outside. It's an odd function, so that's going to equal to negative sine of pi over 8. And according to this, sine of pi over 8 is, so that's going to bring down our negative 0.9239. Nope, that's the cosine one. Scratch that, ignore me. Negative 0.3827, which is why I color code them. Helps me keep things straight. Finally, we have one more sine. So it's got to be, once you see sine, you know it's got to be either positive or negative of 0.38227. We should know if it's positive or negative. So this is, so 8 pi over 8 is 1 pi. This is much bigger than that. 16 pi over 8 is 2 pi. So this is just less than 16 pi. So it's got to be in quadrant 4. So we can rewrite this as sine of 2 pi minus pi over 8. We're always using the theta version, some version of pi over 8 in each of these. And going from quadrant 1 to quadrant 4 does change the sign value, so this should be negative sine of pi over 8. Make sure when you do this, you're bringing out that negative and not rewriting 2 pi in here. So this 2 pi right here, technically this 2 pi and this minus, that becomes this negative. That becomes that negative. This pi right here becomes the negative out here. It's a phase shift. It's rotating it all around and ends up in the same values. So because it's negative, we'll just put the negative right there. And we're done. Okay, I'm going to stop this video here and I will start the next video for page 3.